Good afternoon, Missouri fans. Welcome to Game Day and the 2021 Mizzou football season here on PowerMizzou.com's live streaming coverage of the Tigers all year long. So we're doing things a little bit differently this year and appreciate those of you who are here for the start of it. But we'll welcome people in throughout the show. It is 90 minutes to kick off right now, about 89 minutes actually, 1:31. We're going to be here for a while with you guys, maybe an hour and 20 minutes, just kind of depends on what you guys want to do and what you want to talk about throughout the show. But this is our pregame show, the pregame call. It's going to be brought to you by Call and Gentry Law Group in Jefferson City, Missouri. You can find them online at callgentry.com. You can deal with Chip, with Jason, with Emily, with Nick, all really good people down there. I've met with all of them. Fortunately, I haven't had a whole bunch of legal problems, so, not a lot of big issues, but when life is unfriendly, Call and Gentry, that's the place you want to go. Callgentry.com down in Jefferson City. You can get a free personal injury consultation, 573-691-4571. Again, that website, callgentry.com, is set up with a live online chat. You can chat with somebody, get a few of your questions answered, kind of figure out what direction you need to go. Chip has actually helped me with quite a few things over the years. Again, Jason, Nick, Emily, I played golf with all of them. I don't know if I'd say they're good golfers, but I'd say they're good lawyers if you want to help them with that. So, or if you need help from them with that. So we are going to be here on this show up until close to kickoff, right? We've been kind of building anticipation for this, I would say, for 2 weeks, because we've been doing our live streaming stuff for 2 weeks. But I think based on the comments, a lot of you guys have been anticipation building for this for, 10 months, something like that. This is the first time we've seen Missouri in a while. I actually tweeted out earlier today, this is Missouri's first non-conference football game since October 5th of 2019, when they beat Troy 42-10. So, throughout the show, if you want to put your comments, your questions over in the comment box, we will certainly add those to the show, and I'll get to them. Thinking about taking calls on the pregame show. Not sure if we're going to go that direction or not. Just kind of depends on what we've got. But we have our interview with Christian Boehr, who covers Central Michigan. We showed that earlier in the week, but not everybody watched, so we're going to play that on the show. We're going to check in with Mitchell Forty from the stadium, probably about 2:15, something like that. He should be over there and settled in the press box by then, and may have a little more information on some of the injury questions you guys are asking. But just kind of want to acknowledge those of you who are here with us early on. And to begin with, sorry, I'm putting some comments over my face real quick, but got to adjust that. Cole is here, Greg Shackelford in joining us, and Eric really with maybe one of the more important questions of the day. How's the weather? It right now is not bad. It's I guess getting a little bit lighter outside. It rained a lot of the morning. It's been pretty dark here for a lot of the day, but it is supposed to be moving out. Now, look, it is Missouri. I've looked at enough forecasts and enough radars to know that they don't always know what's going to happen 12 minutes from now, but it looks like by game time, Missouri, it should be pretty clear. Seats are going to be wet. Field's going to be wet. There may be a little rain linger on through, the first quarter to the first half. But the weather isn't terrible. No thunderstorms. It's just been rain. So I don't think it's anything that would have a huge impact on the game. I say that it will open up and be a torrential downpour and we'll have 7 lightning delays, right? Again, we live in Missouri. We don't know. But right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be that big a deal. Ed Blythe back with us this year. Ed, appreciate you being here, man. And again, anybody that has questions, has comments, all that, as I mess around and try to figure out what the heck I'm doing with our technology this year. Ed joined us a lot last year. He's back this year, and appreciate all you guys who are here. So look. First of all, before we get into Missouri, a couple games going on that you guys probably are a little bit interested in. You might be watching these right now. Kentucky, Missouri's opponent next week, a 38-7 leader over Louisiana Monroe right now. Now, look, Louisiana Monroe is really not good. But Kentucky has looked pretty good so far. I watched some of that game. Chris Rodriguez, Cavassier Smoke running the ball. Will Levis, his first pass was intercepted. He's the transfer from Penn State quarterback. First pass was intercepted, but Penn State has scored 38 straight in that one. Kentucky has scored 38 straight in that one. Boston College, another Mizzou non-conference opponent, and I think we all think those are the two games that are really going to shape this season here in the first month. Boston College currently leading 44-0 in the fourth quarter. Now, the good news for Missouri fans, they're playing Colgate, so maybe not a real stiff test, right? I couldn't tell you much about Colgate. I know basketball plays in the Patriot League. I believe Missouri might have played them in a NCAA tournament at one point. That could have been Cornell. I'm not real sure, but no big. You're not going to learn a lot about Boston College, but BC and Kentucky, I feel like, are the two teams that Missouri fans are going to be watching early on. And Kentucky, I mean, that game is already next week. Week 2 of the season, September 11th. You see the schedule over there on the right-hand rail. And got to give a shout-out to my guy, Paul Burkhart, who designed us all new graphics for the shows this year and put a lot of work in over the last couple months to get us ready to do this. And what we're going to do this year, just so you guys know, we'll be on this show. Every week it'll start 90 minutes before kickoff. So, I think next week's a night game, so we'll be looking at like somewhere around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. Obviously today a 3 o'clock kickoff, so we started at 1:30. Start 90 minutes before kickoff. We'll go a while, as long as there are comments and questions and things you guys want to talk about. We'll do that. Now, we obviously won't bleed over into the game. I'm going to be off the air by the time the game starts. Mitchell Forty and Joel Lorenzi are over at Furrow Field. If they're not there now, they're going to be there soon. They're going to provide you guys coverage all game long. Twitter, message boards, they're going to be doing the writing, update you on the site, and they're going to be doing the post-game stuff as soon as the post-game ends, because Missouri's post-game this year is not on Zoom. So as soon as the game ends, within no more than 10 minutes after the game's over, I'm going to go live here on the Postgame Drink, our postgame show brought to you by Boulevard Brewing Company, and we will take phone calls. We will talk about what you guys want to talk about. It is the equivalent of a radio show on the internet. That's what we're going to do. We did it last year. It worked pretty well, more so for some games than others, but had fun talking to you guys and kind of getting your opinions and shooting it back and forth with you guys after game. So we're going to do that again during the game. I'm going to be watching the game, getting some, just taking some notes, getting stuff ready for post-game coverage. So during the game, we're not going to be on here with you guys, but pregame and postgame, I'll be here every single Saturday throughout the season, except the one Saturday Missouri doesn't play. Mitchell and Joel will be at home games. Mitch is going to be maybe on the road this year. SEC media rules are a little bit weird, so we're not sure, but I'm going to be here pregame and postgame with you guys during the season and hope you kind of make a thing of this and join us every week. Got quite a few people here and appreciate you all that are here, so I ask you to do two things while you're here. First of all, hit the like button. That helps more people see the show. It helps it be more visible. It helps us get more viewers. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is probably how... I assume you are all watching this because it's the only place I know it's going through. So if you subscribe to our channel, what you're going to do is you're going to get an alert as soon as we go live. And that's going to help you, especially for the post-game show. Like I said, we will go live minutes after the game ends. Depends on if I have a couple things that I need to help Mitch get posted, anything like that. But our goal is by the time the broadcast is off the air, we are going to be here with you guys taking calls and be your first place for Missouri post-game coverage. So I want to roll through some of your comments, and then we will get to some of the numbers, some of the matchups, things like that. It is important to note, by the way, that the Central Michigan head coach, Jim McElwain, he's not at this game. He has he had an appendectomy earlier this week. I forget exactly what that day, and stick with me while I move this around the screen, and I'm trying to get it to the point where it's a decent size and you guys can see it without maybe covering my entire face, but whatever. We're just going to move it around a little bit, and hopefully you guys can check it out. I'll mess with that later. Jim McElwain not coaching this game. He had an appendectomy earlier this week. Doctors have not cleared him to come to Columbia. Case wants to know, is Mookie Cooper playing? We don't know that for sure. My guess is that he will play. Missouri put out an injury report earlier this week, and Mookie was listed, I believe, as questionable. He had what was termed as a lower leg injury during like first or second practice in fall camp. I believe that was an ankle based on having seen him around a couple times. He practiced on Tuesday. He appeared to be, according to Mitchell, who was there, did not have a lot of restrictions. We think he's going to play. Now, ankles can be a little bit nagging. Could Eli Drinkwitz say, you know what? We just want to give him another week, and we want him fully healthy for Kentucky, so we're not going to mess with it this week? That's possible. Flip side of that is Mookie Cooper hadn't played a football game in almost 3 years now, because his senior year of high school, he had transferred and didn't play. His freshman year at Ohio State, he redshirted and didn't play. So you're talking about 2018, fall of 2018 was the last time Mookie Cooper was on a football field. So you might want to get him out there before that first game against before the big game against Kentucky. I don't think that Mookie Cooper is going to start. I would expect, Barrett Bannister, maybe Chance Looper to start in the slot. But I think Mookie will play, but we do not have that for certain. Josh Fann's asking who's out today. And the truth is, nobody significant that we know is out. I mean, Snoop Reeves, true freshman, had an injury in spring ball. Jonathan Jones, true freshman, came in with a pre-existing injury they found. Kyron Montgomery tore his I think ACL, but had a knee injury in fall camp, so he's not playing. Travion Ford, true freshman, is listed as out. Don't know exactly why, but I mean, these are guys that, if anything, were going to be probably fairly deep rotation players. Mookie Cooper's the only one really that we are following that we're not sure about, that we expect to play a decent role this season. So let's see. Dan reports that 70 West out of St. Louis is a damn parking lot. Don't know if that is all the way to St. Louis. If it is and you are just getting out of St. Louis, you're going to be late for the game. If it's just coming into Columbia, you still got a chance to get there. Ron wants to know which newcomer you're most interested in seeing on the field. I'd say two. Blaze Aldridge is one. Just, he's an older guy, but like, you're asking him to replace Nick Bolton, basically, and that's a tall task. And then the other one is Dom Lovett. I mean, that's a kid who's gotten a lot of attention and accolades in fall camp. I think he can give Missouri something it didn't have in the passing game last year in this matchup with Central Michigan, and really all season long. So he's a guy that I'm interested to see what he can do. Before we get to a chat with our guy that covered Central Michigan, or covers Central Michigan, and Christian Boehr, just want to look and this is the matchup. Now, these are 2020 numbers, right? So maybe not super indicative of what we're going to see today, because obviously both teams change, and week one is weird. But just want to kind of put some of these numbers side by side for you. Central Michigan played 6 games last year. Missouri played 10. Missouri played all SEC games. Central Michigan played all MAC games. So this is not a perfect study, right? But I just kind of want to give you an idea what Missouri's looking at. Central Michigan, a little more productive offensively. Ran the ball quite a bit better than Missouri did last year. Now, again, that is against MAC teams. Now, two things. Both teams lost their primary running back from last year. Missouri obviously lost Larry Roundtree. He graduated. He's in the NFL on the LA Chargers roster. Central Michigan thought it was going to have Kobe Lewis back. It doesn't. He had a knee injury in fall camp. That's a big deal. Another thing for Central Michigan, Derek Smith, offensive lineman, entered the transfer portal in fall camp. That's a big deal. So that running game could look a little bit different. Mizzou, threw the ball better a year ago than Central Michigan did. Those turnovers are a little bit deceptive because, again, Central Michigan played 6 games. So they averaged a turnover and a half per game. Missouri, 1.4 turnovers a game. Those numbers fairly even. But, again, do those numbers mean anything at all? And I'm not sure they do, because Eli Drinkwitz said all weekend, and I appreciate this. We talked about this on some of the shows during the week. I appreciate the honesty from Eli Drinkwitz. He said, look, we don't know what to expect. It's game one. Somebody asked him, said, what do you think of how much more confident are you in Connor Bazelak? He said, well, I'm confident he can catch the snap. And that wasn't an insult to his quarterback. That was, look, this is the first game of the year, and you never really know what the first game's going to look like, right? You see some weird things happen in week one. Is this a game Missouri should lose? Nope. Favored by 14 points. Haven't seen anybody pick the upset at this point. Don't see any reason anybody would pick the upset. It's not a game that it would be impossible for Missouri to lose. In week one, if they don't play well, if Central Michigan does play well, anything can happen. So week one is, I don't know, some people might say it's the best time to place a wager on a game because maybe the gamblers, the guys that set the lines don't tend to know a ton about these teams yet, but it also might be the worst time to place a bet on a game because we don't know that much about these teams yet. And we know less and less every year because the truth is most places are getting less and less access to fall camp. So there might be a kid who's going to come out as a true freshman and really play well that we just haven't heard a lot about on either side of the ball. Bottom line, we will know more this time next week doing pregame for Kentucky than we know today. And we'll know more going into SEMO than we know going into Kentucky. We won't know any more after SEMO than we know before SEMO because that's the scrimmage week. That's the off week of this season. No offense to the Red Hawks, but it's the simple truth. But we will never know less than we know about Missouri and Central Michigan right now is my point. So to kind of let you guys know a little bit about something about Central Michigan, I did, again, talk to Christian Boehr. He covers the Chippewas for Central Michigan Life, which is actually the student paper up there. And, we have a student journalist on here, and Christian, very knowledgeable, knew a ton about the Chippewas. Do want to warn you guys, hey, I'm a one-man production show here, so when I start this, I'm going to have to kind of zip through a couple minutes of stuff real quick, so you might get a little glitch or a little jump right when I turn this on, but we will get it fixed within just a few seconds. Got about a 20-minute conversation with Christian here. We'll come back, take some of your questions, check in with Mitch Forty on the over at Furrow Field. So have been in Furrow Field in a long time, and we're talking to Christian Boehr, who is the Central Michigan football beat reporter for Central Michigan Life, which is the student paper up at CMU. Christian, appreciate you taking some time this afternoon, man.
Yeah, without a doubt. Thanks for having me.
So first things first, before we get into anything about this game, Jim McElwain going to be in Columbia? Do we know?
Well, he hasn't officially been ruled out. And what a crazy 24 hours. We were scheduled to speak with him at noon on Wednesday, and that got moved back, and didn't really think much of it. And then the news drops about 3 p.m. that he's going to be undergoing surgery for appendicitis. So a crazy turn of events there. Like I said, he hasn't officially been ruled out. We talked to assistant head coach Tim Skipper, who is the acting head coach right now. And he said they're hoping it's one of those 24-hour deals where there can be a quick turnaround and he can get on the plane. However, I don't know how likely that is. And so for the safe bet for the time being is that Tim Skipper is going to be the head coach on Saturday.
There was a time where we would have thought, man, head coach being ruled out 2 days before a game, this is nuts. But now this is just apparently what college football is, right? We're moving games all over the country. There's guys in and out. Last year, Missouri played a game with 49 guys. This is just what we do now. You can adjust on the fly, and apparently Central Michigan's going to. I personally want to put in my vote for the Hugh Freeze hospital bed to make an appearance. If McElwain could do that from a suite, that'd be great.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah. So I don't know how well you know Jim, but pass that on. Everybody in Columbia is rooting for that. Honestly, though, what really changes if he's not here? I know he's the guy, right? And he's certainly a notable head coach, and he brings a presence on the sideline. But what do you think really changes if it's not Jim McElwain on Saturday?
No, that's a great question, actually, because Coach McElwain worked with Tim Skipper at Colorado State way back when. Skipper was actually his assistant head coach for 2 years, the last 2 years that McElwain was with the Rams. And then they worked again together at Florida. So these two know each other really well. And I think that they've been working in lockstep. As far as decision-making, I think that's the only thing that really could change, just because Skipper and McElwain, that is, may not always be on the same wavelength. So really, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think a ton changes.
We've tried to figure this out and haven't really been able to. Is Jim McElwain the guy that calls plays for Central Michigan or not?
Well, he wasn't for the past 2 years, and those responsibilities went with offensive coordinator Charlie Fry. And now that Fry is gone, he's with the Miami Dolphins as the quarterback coach. We still have yet to find out exactly who's going to be the official play caller. New offensive coordinator Kevin Barbay is just being promoted from wide receivers coach. So I wouldn't be surprised if those duties fall in his hands. But then again, McElwain could be the one calling the show. And again, if that's the case, then maybe that changes as well, because Skipper is the linebackers coach as well as being the assistant head coach. So okay. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there that probably Barbay is going to be the guy calling the plays on Saturday.
You never know. Some of these coaches are such control freaks that McElwain could seriously be like, we're going to wire up a headset and I'm calling plays from my living room, right? I mean, it wouldn't be the weirdest thing.
You could do that.
Yeah. So more important than the guy standing on the sideline or who's calling the plays is what kind of talent Central Michigan has. And I know the quarterback race expanded from, you guys went into camp thinking that it was probably a 2-person race, and then it kind of became a 3-person race. Do you really know what to expect on Saturday afternoon?
Well, I think as a whole, we thought we knew what to expect going into Saturday. Our general first impressions were that they were going to have one guy. Mm-hmm. And, all signs pointed to that being Jacob Sermon, the Washington transfer, former top recruit in the state of Washington, one of the biggest highly recruited quarterbacks out of that 2018 class in the entire country. However, I think the general impression is he hasn't run away with this thing like a lot of people thought he was. And at the same time, you've got Tyler Pape, who he's a 2020 signee. Mm-hmm. And when the Mid-American Conference initially canceled the season, freshman guys like Pape went home. And they ended up gray shirting last season. Did have a couple freshmen from that class stay and get valuable experience, but Pape was one of the guys that went home. And as a result, he kind of got set back. Didn't really think he had a chance to be in the running this early, at least in his career. But McElwain's been super impressed with him. And I think that's why you've got all 3 guys as opposed to it just being the 2 in Sermon and Daniel Richardson.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about Sermon and how he ended up at Central Michigan. Was it connections from McElwain having recruited him when he came out of high school and ended up at Washington?
With Sermon, it was a dynamic of things. So when he went into the portal, it was essentially because he had 2 opportunities to win the starting job, couldn't do it. Washington's going to bring back the starter. So he wanted to go somewhere where he could play. And there's still plenty of talent with Jacob Sermon. He had Power 5 schools calling him. However, Central Michigan just had the right fit. They had Coach McElwain, who's a guy who knows what it takes to win in the NCAA. This team's won in the MAC. They've got one of the best returning rosters in the conference. And basically what it boiled down to was Sermon was going to have a chance to compete for the job right away on a winning football team. And, some may look at it, well, it's the MAC, but at the end of the day, it's a place to play. And we've seen people come out of Central Michigan and go play in the pros. Talk about Sean Murphy-Bunting, Eric Fisher. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, and hey, let's not knock the MAC and quarterbacks. There have been some guys, Byron Leftwich and Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm dating myself a little bit here. I know you were probably like 4 when those dudes came out of the MAC, but they've turned out some guys over the years. So regardless of who the quarterback is, what's the general – this is kind of a terrible question, but I'm not going to lie and pretend I know everything about Central Michigan, right? So what's the general desire on offense? What's kind of the bread and butter for this team, regardless of who the guy taking the snaps is?
Well, it's going to start and stop with Khalil Pimpleton, number 88, a junior wide receiver. Only stands 5'9". He's not going to blow you away the first time you look at him. However, once you get to see him play, it's going to change your entire outlook on him. Super fast, can do a lot of things, and does them all well. He's going to touch the ball from the second he steps on the field. He's not going to handle kick returns on Saturday, but he is going to be the punt return guy. And so if Central Michigan gets a stop, you're going to see Khalil Pimpleton get the ball in his hands. And then when the Chippewas take the field on offense, guess what? He's going to be right back getting the ball. So last season, played all 6 games, and he did a variety of things. You look at his stat line. He threw a touchdown. He ran for a couple touchdowns. Chippewas hosted Western Michigan last year, and Khalil had 3 rushing touchdowns, and all 3 of them were, he'd taken the snap. He's doing it from the quarterback position. So that's kind of where the offense starts and stops. Another place to look is running back. Obviously, leading rusher Kobe Lewis, done for the foreseeable future with a non-contact knee injury. But hand the keys to Lou Nichols, who was just as good, if not better, last year. So that offense has the potential to be pretty solid with all the playmakers that they have.
The one thing that I know kind of happened in camp that could have a big impact is Derek Smith on the offensive line enters the transfer portal. How big a hit was that up front, and what does Central Michigan look like up front going against an SEC defensive line?
Well, if you look at it in terms of experience, it's a huge hit. I mean, Derek Smith's coming back, would have been his 6th year in the program, and he started pretty much every single one of them. So to lose that is tough, but at the end of the day, Jim McElwain and company feel very confident with what they have up front. You look at that right guard position specifically, and you're looking at 2 guys here, Tynan Ferris and Deontay Powell-Woods. Both guys played as true freshmen. Both of those guys didn't start, but they saw really, really valuable time, experience on that MAC West Division and MAC Championship qualifying team. So they have valuable experience as well, not to the caliber of Derek Smith, but however, these 2 guys here are more than capable of filling in.
All right, let's flip over to the other side of the ball. And Central Michigan, I think, to be generous, had a little difficulty stopping the run last year. Right? That would be fair to say. Now, look, it's a 6-game season. You don't try to draw too much out of 2020, but has that been kind of a point of emphasis, I guess, that they were looking to improve coming into this year?
Absolutely. I think one of the big things that they've had a lot of focus on, especially in the fall when we've got to talk to some of the coordinators and positional coaches, is they want to get better against the run and against big plays. They want to limit big plays because a lot of that rushing trouble that they had was because a guy or two squirmed free from a group of people and just went off down the sidelines. I mean, you look at that Western Michigan game, and my goodness, Ladarius Jefferson was all over the field. They just couldn't stop him. And then they went deep. Western Michigan went deep. And all of a sudden, Dwayne Eskridge is running for 75 yards. So really, it's about limiting the big plays as a whole. And then winning on third downs is another one that especially defensive coordinator Rob Akey's talked a lot about. They want to get back to being one of the best teams in the MAC like they were in 2019 on third downs. And that all starts with stopping the run on first and second downs and putting the offense in bad positions and tough positions to get that first down. So, yeah, I would agree that a lot of it is against stopping the run and limiting big plays.
The Chippewas they've got 10 starters back from last year, and that's something we're seeing all over the country, right? I mean, so many guys got a free year that, especially I think in some of these group of 5 schools, guys that maybe didn't have a surefire NFL future come back to school for another year. So they've got a lot of experience, especially the back 7. If there's one thing Missouri has to improve, it's they weren't all that good they didn't make a lot of big plays in the passing game last year. Do you get the sense? I guess what are people up there saying kind of about the matchup with Missouri's Connor Bazelak and a lot of new receivers for Mizzou this year?
Well, here's the big thing to watch out for is Missouri's got a lot of new receivers, but Central Michigan's breaking in almost a brand new batch of cornerbacks. The safety position's pretty loaded in terms of experience. They will miss Willie Reed, who's out with an off-the-field matter. Don't exactly know what that is. But at corner, they're breaking in Deshaun McNary, who came on strong at the end of the year last season. But he also was, in the beginning of the year, he kind of got picked apart. And then at the other side, you're breaking in 3 guys, potentially 4, who either have never played the position before or in either their first or second year on campus. And I'm talking about Rolian Sturkey, who's a converted safety, and then Dante Kent and Data Hill are both members of that 2020 freshman class that did elect to stay on campus and got some experience, and then true freshman Elijah Ricard. So that corner position's kind of thin outside of McNary. Lost another one, Brian Edwards, to the transfer portal. So it's going to be very interesting to see how a guy like McNary or Sturkey matches up with a guy like Kiki Chisholm, who's, what is he, 6'5"?
Yeah, it's 6'5"-ish, I think, probably about 215, 220.
Right, so then there becomes your problem. McNary's 6'1", but everybody else, Ricard's 6'1" as well, but outside of him, Starkey, Hill, and Dante Kent all listed at 5'11". So if you're Rob Akey, if you're Tim Skipper, how do you line up against that? And that'll be one of the things to follow.
For sure. We are again talking to Christian Boehr. He is the beat reporter for Central Michigan Life, the CMU student paper. He will be down in Columbia. I don't want to put too much stock in that because last year was so weird that, I don't know if 3-3 is this notification that they took a step back. But, I said when McElwain was decent at Florida, but I said when Central Michigan hired him, maybe there's some guys that, like, maybe that's his level because he was really good at Colorado State and came in and was really good at Central Michigan. And I'm not saying that he's not a good enough coach to be in the SEC. Just some guys maybe fit a little bit better in certain places. And from the outside, it seems like he's done a heck of a job up there.
No, you're absolutely right. In the last regime with John Bonamigo as head coach had kind of run its course. I mean, the way they were doing things, you talk to some of the guys who were around for those last couple of years, and it was a lot of, just kind of so-so practicing, not a ton of intensity at practice. And that's, I think, why you saw kind of that 111 season. And the other thing was that they had a couple of guys playing out of position. And the big one is Tony Poljan, who was the starting quarterback for that 2018 team that went 111. Jim McElwain comes to town, slides into tight end, and he goes and has a huge season. And he just signed that, 2 years later, he's in the NFL as an undrafted free agent with the Baltimore Ravens. So those kind of switches got flipped when Jim McElwain started as head coach here. He not so much goofing off at practice, a lot of intensity. All indications are, we don't get a ton of practice access, but all indications are that he runs it like an NFL practice, like an SEC practice. So that intensity, that flip of the switch, I think kind of inspired a lot of these guys who did come to Central Michigan to win a championship and thought that opportunity might have run its course, and then to have McElwain, that new blood in there. And the other thing is he's got a heck of a coaching staff around him. I mean, just getting to meet some of these guys and speak with them during various media availabilities, you get the sense that these guys know their stuff. You get the sense that McElwain's brought the right group of guys together. And it's not just that they know their stuff, it's that they love football and they're energized about the game. One new hire in particular I want to touch on is Alvin Slaughter, the new wide receivers coach here. When Barbe was promoted to offensive coordinator, they needed to fill his spot, and they went out and got Alvin Slaughter. And this is a guy that, I mean, from all indications, quite literally inspires the people in his wide receiver room to go out there and play harder. He talks about stacking good days on good days. And he's one of the guys who I think at some point is going to have a future beyond Central Michigan. And I think that, again, hiring guys like Alvin Slaughter speaks to what Jim McElwain's been able to do since he came to Central Michigan into the Mid-American Conference.
Well, you talk about McElwain being all business. I don't think that's a surprise. I think he's a good football coach. He doesn't strike me as like the most lighthearted, funny guy in the room necessarily. Maybe that read is wrong, but it is the impression I've gotten from a distance. So look, first games. I mean, the talk here when you're the Power 5 program playing at home, you're a 2-touchdown favorite. The talk here is, hey, don't slip up. This is the first game. We don't know. Anything can happen. I've got to imagine the talk when you're on the other side of that is, hey, this is the first game. Anything can happen. Why not us, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think the big thing for Central Michigan, though, here is that they got some things they still need to get figured out. And that's not always ideal when you're headed to SEC country for week one and you've got a bunch of things you need to get figured out. So look for them. I would say one thing to look for is for Central Michigan to kind of decide who that starting quarterback is within the first 2, maybe 3 series. Because otherwise, if you just keep playing the revolving door game, then it's going to be getting away from you very, very fast. But going back to your question, I certainly think that it's kind of a go for broke mentality, especially now that McElwain might not be with the team. I think that Coach Skipper and company are just kind of gonna throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Khalil Pimpleton coming out and taking snaps at quarterback, or Lou Nichols, or backup running back Darius Bracy, or maybe even Marion Luke's a true freshman who we've heard a lot of good things about. So again, like you said, it is going to be kind of that go for broke, do whatever it takes, and maybe mess around and win a football game. So I certainly think, that it's going to be one of those risk it all, nothing to lose games.
So there you go. That was my chat with Christian Boehr. At least most of it. He covers Central Michigan for the student paper up there, and certainly appreciate him stopping by earlier in the week. Appreciate you guys all being here today. Appreciate Pocket Watch tossing us the super chat, and if you guys want to do that, we never turn it down. We never ask for it, but this gets easier to do when everybody pitches in a little bit, like Colin Gentry Law Group. They pitched in. Check them out at callgentry.com. You can get in touch with them on the phone if you want to at 573-691-4571. You can chat online with them at that website, callgentry.com. lot of personal injury stuff, but they can do almost anything for you. They've done some business type stuff for me, some personal legal things. When life is unfriendly, call and Gentry. That's who you want to get in touch with. They do a great job down there. All of our sponsors are products and people that I've dealt with personally and can recommend, and the folks at Call and Gentry Law Group, no different. So, look, this game is now 55 minutes away. We're going to check in with Mitchell Forty from the stadium here in about 15 minutes. He's going to be calling in. It's 3 o'clock kickoff, 3 o'clock-ish. Oftentimes it's maybe a couple minutes after that. It's on the SEC Network, if you don't know that. This is the one time I'm going to tell you that, but it is on your screen right there, SEC Network. Tiger Radio Network. Teams have never met, which is pretty interesting. I'm not sure I knew that. I may have known that. I don't know. But we're going to run through some of your all's questions real quick. Jonah wants to know, does a rainy day add to an even bigger workload for Beatty? Ground and pound and take the air out of the ball. I don't think that's Missouri's approach this year. It was with Larry Roundtree. It just isn't going to be this year. First of all, I don't know that it's what Eli Drinkwitz wants to do at heart, but more than that, like Tyler Beatty is not a guy that I think can handle 20 carries a game. You give him 12, give Elijah Young 10, and that's how you make up for Larry Roundtree being gone. Elijah Young is a guy that somebody had mentioned him in the comments. He's a breakout player to me, and I wouldn't be stunned if he led Missouri in carries this year. Because I think he's a guy that could get in the game, and all of a sudden you go, whoa, we've got something here. And every game last year, Eli Drinkwitz basically told us afterwards, like, yeah, I should have given Beatty the ball a little bit more. Well, he ended up with 48 carries for the season. He just never seemed to run the ball all that much. He's a guy they use in the pass game, use in the screen game, maybe some jet sweeps here and there, but he didn't seem like a guy they love to hand the ball off to straight up the gut. Now, maybe that's because they had Larry Roundtree, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see Elijah Young take a little bit more of the workload in the running game than we've seen thus far. Let's see. Keep on rolling through some of your questions. Okay, here you go. Patrick talking about the same thing. Will Beatty get more than half the carries today? I think he'll get – well, I was going to say I think he'll get more than half the carries, but there's a couple things there. He did have the slight injury in camp. Now, it doesn't appear to be a major deal, but it did keep him out for a little bit. So, what might be the impact of that, I'm not sure. Secondly, if Missouri manages to get in a position where they're up a fair amount later in the game, you might not see Beatty or Elijah Young. You might see a little bit more of like a Dawson Downing or Michael Cox, who certainly both of those guys are going to play. Actually, I think it's more likely to be Cox than Downing, and I think freshman B.J. Harris is going to see some time. He's a guy that Eli Drinkwitz mentioned a little bit during fall camp. So I think he's a guy that you could see get some carries in the backfield. Do we have appropriate footwear options for the wet turf? I'm going to assume so. All the players seem to get like 37 pairs of shoes when they sign. It's advertised in the media guide. So I'm assuming they'll have the appropriate shoes on. All right, Luke, with kind of the question of the week, right? What's your guess for attendance? I had set it earlier in the week. I set the over-under at 49.5, and Mitchell and I both took the over. I don't really feel like that anymore. It rained. Apparently, there's a huge traffic jam out of St. Louis, which might delay a few people getting to the game. Look, they were giving away tickets at schools in Columbia today. Like literally any kid that wanted them, hey, here's 2 tickets, bring a friend. That's elementary schools. It was middle schools. They're giving them away. That tells me they're not all that close to filling the stadium. I think it'll be somewhere in the 40s, somewhere between 40 and 50,000. I'm not sure they get to 45,000. And I'm not going to start – we're not going to start this yet before we've even seen how many people show up and all that. But with, there's always an excuse not to go, right? Always an excuse. And that's fine. But at some point, you're in the SEC. You're trying to catch other teams in the SEC. It's not an issue now. It's not an issue maybe after a Central Michigan game with COVID still being a factor, all that. I'm not going to start crowd shaming and dealing with this from the drop in the 2021 season. But it's absolutely a thing to watch, because if everybody is as excited about Eli Drinkwitz and this coaching staff and the way this program is going, as they have indicated on the Power of Mizzou message boards, as they have indicated on Twitter, all that, then that needs to translate and show up in the stadium. And if it doesn't, it's just like this hollow social media thing that you kind of like to say and all that, but it doesn't really translate into the stands on game day, then that's the thing. And Tircell, I understand COVID is a real issue. Absolutely. And I don't want to get into the conversation other than to say it was full in Blacksburg last night. It's full in Madison this morning. And I understand Central Michigan is not North Carolina. It's not Penn State. So it's not that. Minnesota was full for Ohio State. So yes, if it was a bigger game, if this was Texas A&M, would it be different? Probably. But I'm just saying, there's always a reason not to go, but at some point those reasons have to be overcome by every single part of the machine here, which includes fans, kind of pulling in the same direction. But again, I don't want to spend too much time on it. Was asked the opinions of what the attendance would be. So that's it. I think it'll be in the neighborhood of 45,000, maybe a little bit more than that. All right, Eric wants to know, after Daniel Parker Jr. and Nico Hay, is there a walk-on tight end the drinking company have spoken about in the preseason? Not really. I mean, you've got Messiah Swinson, who's there. Maybe he contributes a little bit. Ryan Horstkamp, a true freshman, maybe he gets on the field. Haven't heard a lot about Gavin McKay, the true freshman, but it's mostly going to be Parker and Hay, and that is the position. It's tight end and linebacker where I look and say that's where Missouri is thin. That's where I think this team is maybe missing a little bit. Now, it's not the only position. I'm not sold on the offensive line. The receivers, we need to see more. They have bodies there, but we need to see those guys produce. Running game, again, we need to see it. Maybe it shows up, but we haven't seen it yet. So there are plenty of question marks on this team. But if you ask me to pick one on each side of the ball, I think tight end is really thin for Missouri. And if Daniel Parker or Nico Hay gets hurt, I think that's an issue. I think you maybe have to go to some different formations and maybe some 4 receiver stuff or 2 running back and put Dawson Downing or Michael Cox in there as an H-back. Cox could actually play out at tight end, to be quite honest with you. I wouldn't be shocked by that. And then on defense, it's linebacker. I think they're okay with Blaze Aldridge and Devin Nicholson, but if one of those guys gets hurt, Chad Bailey has never really stayed healthy. Jamie Petway has never really been out on the field, so I don't think we really have much of an idea what to expect out of him. They got a couple freshmen, Damian Wilson, Zach Lovett, but counting on those guys this year, or Will Norris, who redshirted last year, counting on those guys this year, I'm not sure that's the route you want to go. So those are the 2 positions, really, that I kind of want to focus on. All right, we're going to quit talking about, whatever you want to talk about in the comments you talk about, but let's not really turn this into a political COVID thing. That's not what we're here for. Football's back. It's great. People are in the stands. We're happy about that. I don't really care about your political opinions. So let's keep those away, and we won't need to ban anybody from the chat, and we will move on. Checking in on the other Missouri games of interest. Tulane actually kind of hanging with Oklahoma. It's 40-28. So that's at least somewhat interesting. Penn State leading Wisconsin 16-10. At least those teams have managed to find the end zone. Arkansas is up 7-3 on Rice. That one's midway through the second. Looks like that means we've probably got a couple finals. I know Kentucky won big. I can't find the final right now, but they were up 38-7, and I saw a thing that Will Levis had a quarterback rating of 230.6, which is like number 4 as far as players who have played games so far, which is certainly solid. So that's, hey, Kentucky off to a good start. Missouri's there next week, and that certainly is a big game, but you can't go 2-0 if you don't go 1-0. And so this one, the bigger game right now. Appreciate Brandon with the super chat. Preseason team MVP. So I kind of take Connor Bazelak out of the offensive discussion because the quarterback is the most important player on offense, right? I don't really think there's much doubt about that. So, most important player versus most valuable player is going to be a different discussion for me. I might say the most important player on Missouri's offense outside of Bazelak is Javon Foster, the left tackle. Obviously the protecting the blind side. He is a guy that I think it's viewed a lot like Larry Borum was last year, where he played, but it was a little bit up and down, and you don't know what to think. And then Borum really turned into a guy last year to the point where when he wasn't on the field, Missouri's offense was noticeably worse. The coaches have talked glowingly about Javon Foster in fall camp this year, had nothing but good things to say. So if he can turn into that guy at left tackle that you can kind of count on to be there, hey, man, that's a big deal. So I think he's the most important player. Now, when we get to the end of the season, is anyone going to vote for Javon Foster as Missouri's most valuable player? Of course not. That's going to be a skill position player. Kiki Chisholm's in the discussion. Tyler Beatty would probably be the people that most people would predict. I kind of keep coming back to Elijah Young as a guy I really like. Him and Mookie Cooper, I think, could be guys that make this offense look a whole lot different. On defense, I think the most important player, I think, is Kobe Whiteside, being back healthy, putting him in the middle of that defensive line. The most valuable player, I'm going to go with either Martez Manuel or Trajan Jeffcoat. If Trajan Jeffcoat can provide you a consistent pass rush like he did last year, I think that's a thing that can really help. Martez Manuel being that guy at safety that's kind of the quarterback of the defense. I thought Martez was good last year. I didn't think he was great. I think they need him to be great this year and kind of lead the way in a secondary that has a lot of guys, but again, is pretty young. I had somebody tell me last week, especially in the secondary, Missouri could look a little rough in the first 3 or 4 games, and then all of a sudden, like week 6 or 7, you're going, hang on, man, this is a pretty good group. So it could take a few games to get going, which is almost, I look at Missouri's schedule, and you almost wish it was flip-flopped. Go ahead and get Georgia and Florida early and take some lumps, But Kentucky and Boston College are really the swing games in this season. And they're 2 of the first 4. I think they could be the difference between 6-6 and 8-4 or 7-5 and 9-3. And you've got those both on the road in the first 4 weeks of the season. So when you're talking about a young group that might take a few weeks to find its sea legs, like you'd almost rather see that schedule flipped around. But Brandon, again, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the question, and thanks to everybody who's here. A lot of likes and a lot of comments. It's been an active show, and certainly hope it is this way all season. Somebody asked me yesterday, when's the last time Missouri fans have been this excited for football season? I said I think 2008. You were coming off 07. They were number 4 in the country. Everybody was fired up. Everybody expected, like it's the only season ever where Missouri fans, I think, have gone into and said, hey, we've got a legit shot to play for everything. Now, Missouri fans do not feel that way this year. I don't think anybody out there expects Missouri to have a shot to play for the national title. But I do think Missouri fans are very excited about this season and very interested to see where it goes. And, so I think that enthusiasm level is high, and I hope that translates to what we're doing here with you guys all season long. Again, I will be here an hour and a half before kickoff every week. I will be back as soon as the game ends every week within a few minutes, which is why it's important you subscribe to the channel, you hit those alerts, and you will get, or you hit, when you subscribe, you can get an alert when we do go live. And we have got now the first test of our technology and our Skype stuff, our Skype line this year. That is Mitchell Forty on the line. Mitch, are you actually there, and can you hear me?
I am in the press box, and I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. This is a huge victory. We've done very well. We maybe should
that's
just
actually stunning.
Yeah, we maybe should just end the show right now. It's gone really well. We had a little political spat in the comments. You're on the phone. It's mid-season 4, man. We're ready to go. So,
Yep.
all right,
Well,
first question everybody wants to know. There's really only one kind of injury deal. Has Missouri been out on the field for warm-ups yet, and is Mookie Cooper in uniform?
Yeah, so Mizzou is out on the field right now. They are not in full uniforms yet. They're not wearing shoulder pads. They're wearing their pants and helmets, and they're wearing like little hoodies.
Mm-hmm.
I am 99% sure I've spotted Mookie Cooper, but full disclosure, I can't actually read the hoodies from where I am. But I know Andrew Kaufman from KMIZ tweeted out a video of him running out onto the field earlier, so
Yeah.
It looks like he's out there in uniform.
Well, just look for the shortest one, man. That's Mookie.
Right.
You know.
The shortest receiver. Yeah, it's a pretty safe bet.
Exactly. So I am, in full disclosure, inside my home office with some blinds closed, so I can't see. What's the weather like over at the stadium, and are we starting to maybe see a little bit of sunlight?
Yeah, I wouldn't say sunlight, but it is, at least if it's still raining, it's extremely light. It's not something I can really even perceive from inside the press box. It looks to me like it's stopped raining, so it'll be a little bit wet in the seats, but it does not look like it is currently precipitating.
Yeah, everybody wants to know how many people are going to be there. I know it's hard to tell 45 minutes before kickoff, but just bad weather. I know there was apparently a huge traffic jam out of St. Louis coming down, so that might delay some people, but what was it like kind of walking through the lots on the way to the game? Did it seem like, decent crowd, terrible crowd, great crowd?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, the tailgating crowd was not as much as it has been in a lot of games in the past. I'm sure that has a lot to do with the fact that it was raining when I walked through the parking lot about an hour and 45 minutes before kickoff. So, I'm not necessarily saying that's a reliable barometer of the crowd in this case. And yes, I did actually hear from Ben Frederickson of the Post-Dispatch that there's a big backup on 70 coming from St. Louis, so that may make the crowd a little late arriving. So hard to say. I'm not going to pretend like anything I've seen so far indicates it's going to be a packed house, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I drove by the stadium, I think it was about 10:15 this morning, and I did see some people huddled under a tent tailgating. I don't know if that means they're great fans or just not the smartest people in the world, but, I mean, they were out there already.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah.
They didn't let the weather take their tailgating away from them.
That's kind of what I thought. So just kind of quick thumbnail sketch. I mean, obviously what you're looking for is a win that's not in huge doubt in the fourth quarter. But anything specific, storyline-wise that you go into this saying, hey, going into Kentucky next week, this is something that Missouri fans would really kind of need to or like to see?
Yeah, a few things. I think on the offensive side, obviously, you want to see where Connor Bazelak is at. We've heard that maybe he's been able to take a step forward and would like to see that on display today against a secondary that definitely looked vulnerable based off of its stats from last year. You want to see the offensive line be able to protect Bazelak. That is one thing that Central Michigan does well is rush the passer, and obviously Kentucky has a very good defensive line. And Missouri has some question marks on the offensive line, particularly a tackle, which are very important in protecting the quarterback. So yeah. I'll be curious to see how those guys perform. Javon Foster and Hiram White getting the starts there. On the defensive side of the ball, I think the biggest thing is just tackling. We saw in that Wyoming game a couple years ago how missed tackles can give an underdog momentum and turn routine running plays into huge gains. And so that, Central Michigan's going to run the ball a lot. I think, if Missouri has issues tackling, that could make this game a lot closer than it otherwise would be.
Yeah, I actually said a few minutes ago I thought Javon Foster, taking Connor Bazelak out of the equation, might be the most important player on the offense. We've had a lot of questions about Tyler Beatty and kind of what the running game looks like. I mean, again, I know it's a little tough to spot guys from the press box and you're not allowed down on the field. Any indication at all that Beatty's not good to go?
No, I've not spotted him, but I'm pretty sure he's out there. I can't really honestly be. They're wearing hoodies with numbers that are like
right.
1 inch by 1 inch. It's very, very hard to read.
Yeah.
I will definitely update the site if for some reason he's not out there. But I mean, like the last time we watched practice on Tuesday, he was out there practicing fully. I'd be stunned if for some reason he's not out there.
Yeah, and that's kind of last kind of specific thing. We'll get a pick in a minute and let you go. But I've said I'm interested to see what the running game and the distribution looks like because for all the talk. Last year, Eli Drinkwitz told us after every game, we got to get Tyler Beatty the ball more, and he averaged 4.8 carries a game. Like, I'm not going to be stunned if Elijah Young ends up leading this team in carries.
Yeah, I wouldn't be stunned. I'd be a little surprised, but we do know the coaching staff really likes Young. And I don't think Kyler Beatty is going to carry the ball near as much as Larry Ransom did last year. I think there will be more of a role for Young this year than Beatty had last year. So, I think that we'll definitely see him involved, and we'll see some of the other guys involved, B.J. Harris, Dawson Downing, maybe Michael Cox.
Yeah, everybody who read your preview yesterday knows this, but what are you calling for a score?
I picked Missouri 37, Central Michigan 21. I'm nervous that it will not actually be that high scoring, but I do think Central Michigan's going to be able to move the ball. They've got some guys on that side of the ball with Templeton and Lou Nichols, and I think that there might be some growing pains from Steve Wilkes in this new defense. So that's my pick. I think it is closer than Missouri fans want at halftime, but by the fourth quarter, it's probably a 3-possession game.
We feel pretty similar. I think at halftime, a lot of people are going, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on?" And then Missouri stretches out in the third quarter, leads 33-13, and gives up a touchdown for the backdoor cover. So that's my gambling advice for the day. I'm already 1-0 on the weekend. So Mitch, hang up, get a call in real quick, place your bets, man.
Yeah, we can have the same scenario going into the fourth quarter if you'll let that touchdown then be followed by a 2-point conversion for Central Michigan and then back-to-back safeties for Missouri to get to my score prediction.
Sounds good. I'm there.
Likely.
All right, man. Well, hey, appreciate you checking in. We'll be following along and Twitter and the message boards and all that during the game. We'll talk to you.
All right, enjoy the game, guys.
All right, Mitchell Forty from Furrow Field in the press box. He and Joel Lorenzi will have your coverage for us all game long. We're now just a little over half hour from kickoff. This game, again, starting at 3 p.m. on the SEC Network. As we mentioned, Jim McElwain not going to be at the game for Central Michigan. He had his appendix out earlier this week, so he's missing this one. Eli Drinkwitz is going to be at this game. So, advantage Missouri, I guess, as far as if your head coach is at the game or not. Let's see. Keep on rolling through any of the comments. Steve is asking if any recruits are at the game, and I didn't ask Mitchell that because he's in the press box. There's no way he can see down there. The media isn't allowed on the field this year unless they're photographer or videographer, and Mitch is not. But we did have a list of recruits yesterday in the chamber. I would encourage everybody to go there. Logan Reichert's supposed to be there. Caden Green's supposed to be there, 2023 offensive lineman. DJ Wesselak from Boonville, 2022 defensive end, supposed to be there. So those are some of the headline names. Jaden Doss expected in town. Those are some of the headline names, but you got about 35 minutes before kickoff. Go read the chamber, which is on the site yesterday for the latest on that. All right, someone posted on the message board that a cattle truck rolled and there were dead cows all over I-70. I hope that's not true, but we shall see how that goes. Let's see. Everybody is talking about where I live and all that. Mookie Cooper. Again, Jacob asking, we talked to Mitchell, and we think he's playing. He saw him on the field. He's going through warm-ups, so we think he's playing. But, we don't, I guess, know for sure. Tiercell's asking if for some reason Eli Drinkwitz wasn't at a game, who's second in command. That's interesting. Marcus Johnson, maybe? I think he's got, the associate head coach title. I could be wrong there. I don't know. We will see. We might not see. Hopefully we don't see. Hopefully Eli Drinkwitz just coaches 12 games this year, and they're all 12 played on time, and there's no forfeits, and there's none of this junk we're talking about during the season except football games, right? Missouri and Central Michigan, 30 minutes from kicking off. It's on the SEC Network. It's on the Tiger Radio Network. Sounds like some people might have to listen to it on I-70 rolling into town a little bit late. Mitchell made his prediction. I think he said 37-21. I've got Mizzou 33-20. Just going to tell you guys, don't freak out if this is a close game at halftime. Don't freak out maybe if Central Michigan even leads for a minute. Weird things happen in week one, right? Going to give you one more look there at kind of some of the matchups. Again, this is from last year. These numbers will mean a little bit more in future matchups as we get going into the season. But, Central Michigan they're a decent group of 5 team. They're not great, but they're decent. They were 8-5 and won the MAC, whatever, East or West a couple years ago. So it is a team that is not completely incapable of beating Missouri, right? Is it equal to like Wyoming of a couple years ago or New Mexico of a long time ago? Sure. They got a shot. They're that good. Now maybe it's a 1-10 or 2-10 shot, but Missouri's going to have to come out and show up. If Missouri does come out and show up, I think they should win this game and they should be 1-0 going to Lexington next week. But, again, week 1, nobody knows for sure what's going to happen, including, to be quite honest, Eli Drinkwitz, as he said a number of times this week. So, just want to thank you guys all for watching. Again, kickoff less than half an hour away, and that's kind of our goal every week, to get you within about 20, 30 minutes of kickoff here. And some weeks, if it goes a little bit longer, then we'll certainly stick with you guys. But, if we don't make it that far, then that's cool too. We'd like to get you if we don't go long, we'd like to get you to at least 30 minutes before kickoff. Sorry, I was having to kick somebody out of the chat real quick, so that's why I hesitated there. Cam Cameron asking, Jim McElwain not here. That was reported last night, I believe. He is not making the trip, so he is not coaching today. Eli Drinkwitz is. But once again, I want to thank you guys for being here. Hit the like button real quick while we're finishing up. I want to thank Call and Gentry Law Group for sponsoring this show, and they will do so every Thursday, or not Thursday, it is Saturday. I have no clue what I'm talking about, guys. It's Saturday. That's when college football was played, is Saturday. So Call and Gentry Law Group for sponsoring this show every week during the season. We'll start 90 minutes before kickoff of every Missouri game. You can check those guys out at callgentry.com. You can do an secure online chat on that website if you want to. You can give them a call at 573-691-4571. You ask for Emily or Nick or Jason or Chip. Any one of them can take care of you. They'll have different areas of expertise and all that. So if you know what you need, but you don't know which person you want to talk to, just call and say, hey, need somebody to talk to about this. They'll hook you up. They'll get you with the right person. Call and Gentry Law Group out of Jefferson City. When life is unfriendly, call and Gentry. But hey, life is friendly today because college football is back. A few games already in the books. Missouri starts the season in 30 minutes. Mitch and Joel are going to have you covered completely today from Memorial Stadium. I am going to be back here after the game with the Boulevard Brewing Company post-game drink. No online post-game this year, so I'm not messing with Eli Drinkwitz's post-game. When the game is over, I'm going to be sitting down here and I'm going to go live. So could be 6 o'clock, could be 7 o'clock, who knows? It's going to be sometime probably in that hour. But within minutes of that game being over, we'll be right back here. We're going to put the phone number on the screen, and we're just going to hang out and talk to you guys for a couple hours. So thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here post-game. And Missouri Central Michigan about to get going.